So this is the goth version of the cute. So it's the bunny. It's the skull with bunny ears.
Oh, wow.
So it's mixing the goth and the Hello Kitty.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty wild. Were you in Tokyo for a while?
No, but I just like the fusion, the weird artistic. They take American art type things and torque them around and do weird things. Like they've got all these Elvis impersonators, and you know, they got rockabilly. They've got
yeah, I know that.
You know, the naughty nurses. You know, the whole thing. So, but I just like their creativity, and it's
they are
wacky and crazy. So. Part of the idea was that it's anonymous. It gets beyond the paradigm of the artist persona, like the Picasso model, you know, where he's like an egomaniac and he's so great and so wonderful, and you know, been there and done that. So that's kind of old. So, but I like the idea of the work going directly to the public with no mediation, you know, no museum, no gallery, just right out there where people normally are. So the whole idea of doing graffiti art is to like get it out there. So then it's not about the personality of the artist. And then you want to go mythological, you know, to really make it work. So if you create a character, you know, but in this case, instead of Andy Warhol creating a character, Andy Warhol, then I created this artist, Tomcat Spray, you know, and turned him loose. And then I had copycats also who they were lying in wait for me out in the alley. You know, so when they heard tinka, 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 then they went, aha, you're busted. You know, so then I trained them to cut stencils, and then they got really good, and so then their work got mistaken for Tomcat Spray. So then in that way it also transcended just one ego, you know, being just one person. So I really wanted to, you know, people said, oh, you should take credit for it, and you know, you should get busted and then you'll get publicity, but you know, part of the rules of the game were like, you don't tell, and it's more fun for everybody. But after 30 years, I guess if the cat's out of the bag, well, it's not so bad now. You know, Tomcat retired sometime in the 80s, but he's got all of his second, third generation stencil cutters out there still doing great stencil art. So there, and I still get people saying, oh, you did that Johnny Cash? I said, no, I didn't do the Johnny Cash, but I wish I had. Yeah. It was awesome. You know, it was right out of the, you know, right out of the formula book of how to make graffiti art. You know, take an icon of a recently deceased superstar, and you know, so yeah, that's how it worked. But now the idea is that I'm trying to make smaller pieces that people can collect, because I really want to work. When you take it out of the street, something dies. So to make that work, you've got to go monumental, you know, to make up for that. So I've got a piece over there in Ballantyne Hall now on the second floor that's an 8-foot by 8-foot mural. And that kind of approximates what the alley should have looked like, you know, if you could really spend infinite time, you know, and just keep working. So that's kind of what I'm going for. And then this show is like kind of fragments of that. So if you take all these pieces and shove them all together, then you kind of get that 8-foot by 8-foot thing. But if people wanted to collect something, or, you know, we try to make them affordable and small enough you can hang it over the couch, you know, so. In that way, it is kind of a sellout, but it's not for Tomcat Spray. It's for people who want to have a piece of it.
Yeah, it's part of Bloomington.
Yeah, it's part of Bloomington history.
Yeah.
And well, the cool thing is that, see, in some ways it was cutting edge, because in Sao Paulo, in Paris, in London, and all these different big cities, they were having this thing go on. And I was seeing this in New York on my way back and forth to India. So at the same time in the early 80s that I was doing this, it was happening simultaneously in bigger cities. But I wasn't about like trying to make a big reputation. I didn't want to be pigeonholed as a graffiti artist, you know. I mean, to me that was just one more piece, one more concept. So I like to work, you know, I like to be free to respond to anything. So if you get pigeonholed as something, then you don't have freedom anymore. So, you know, success can be a prison too. So I didn't want to fly to Hong Kong and do it there and get famous, you know. Basically, people get it. I mean, you don't have to explain it too much to them, but then they have questions of like, well, what's this all about? You know, like, how did you get that what's that reflective stuff, you know? And so I didn't like the way glitter looked, but I found this nail polish stuff in the dumpster behind the beauty supply. It was to make disco nails, you know, so it's ground up holographic film and acrylic powder. And if you dust that onto a sticky surface, it's very reflective, like you get a glitter effect, but it doesn't look like glitter. It's not overdetermined in its meaning. It's something, it's very light sensitive, and you know, you can get a beauty out of it. Or it's like the road, it's like the lines in the middle of the road. If you hit the light, it'll reflect back. So like on that bunny-eared skull piece, that thing has that acrylic stuff on it. So if you light it, it'll like glow off that, reflects. But then it's transparent also. So there's a lot of kind of nuts and bolts things about how do you do it, and what are your considerations when you make it? Like you want to work with scale and get some kind of feeling of monumentality, and different surfaces. Like getting boards out of the dumpster, they already have like a history and they already have a surface. You can play off that, and react to that, or you can collage different things together, different textures or boards. So those are like the art. That's for like the other artists who want to know like how did you do it, and one of my big audiences in Bloomington has always been the other artists, and I have fun because they.
Speaking of, you're walking right by here.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
I'm a fan, a true fan.
I'm a fan. He's great.
Learn from the guru.
So anyway, that's fun, to have other artists to talk to, and then it's interesting because then if you do something new, they don't go like, well, what are you doing? They don't say, why didn't you do it the way you did last time? They go, oh, cool, something new to take apart and figure out. So that's fun too, to have other artists, that you can play to, because then they get it typically before everybody else, and you don't have to explain too much to them. So for me, that's fun. But then they're not the consumers. They don't collect and they don't buy it, and, so.
Well, should I thank David or should I thank Tom Cat?
Whatever.
All right, well, thank you, David.
Okay, sure.